Good afternoon, everybody. Organic Farmer here, back to tell you about my organic transition project. We are right now a conventional farm, and I'm showing you what's some of the things going on with that. That side of the farm uses chemicals, GMOs to produce typically corn and soybeans. And about 2 years ago, I hatched the idea of converting some of that ground of my father's to organic grain production. Behind me, you see part of the 68-acre field that we're converting to organic, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about the plan. So last year was our first year of transition. We had non-GMO, non-treated soybeans out here, and so that was the first year. The second year now we have winter wheat with a cover crop of red clover, which I could show you if I get down in between the rows of wheat. The wheat is starting to fill in really well now. As you can see, it's a very green field. It was a little bit weak starting out. We got it planted late because of all the wet weather last year and the late harvest of the soybeans before it, but it did well over the winter, and it's looking great here now this spring. So the plan again was non-GMO soybeans, and then this is untreated wheat. It's a transitional crop. And the plan is in 2021, fall of 2021, we will harvest organic corn off this ground. That will be our first organic crop. And so end of November 2021 is the plan to harvest organic corn from this ground. So it's a 3-year process. It's 3 years. It has to be 3 years from the last prohibited substance put on the ground to when you harvest your first organic crop. And so in late 2018, we had some phosphorus applied. It was a conventional product, and that was a prohibited substance. It was actually in late November, unfortunately. So what that did is it backed up our earliest harvest date for 2021 to also late November. It has to be a year, 3 years, I'm sorry, 3 years from the date of last prohibited substance to the first organic harvest. So once we get that, once we had that last prohibited substance, no prohibited substance have been put on this ground since. All non-GMO and untreated seed, at least untreated with conventional treatments. There are some treatments you can use in organic. So that's what we have on this ground now. And so the plan here is the wheat will grow into July, and it will dry out, and we'll harvest it in July. And then we will let the red clover grow, and the red clover is part of both weed management for this year and the nutrition program for next. So for weed management, what we're doing is it's helping to fill in between the wheat rows, get a leaf over the ground to capture that sunlight and stop the weed seeds from germinating, and try to choke out those weed seeds, any that might come up. The wheat will do most of that. The wheat will do most of that, but there will be some clover. The clover is getting bigger now, and it's going to have, the weeds will have competition with the clover too. So then the second piece is the nutrition. The clover is a legume which fixes nitrogen from the atmosphere. Grasses like corn cannot take nitrogen out of the atmosphere. The air we breathe is very nitrogen rich. However, corn cannot take nitrogen from the atmosphere. On the other hand, legumes like soybeans, beans, clover, and plants in that family can take nitrogen from the nitrogen-rich atmosphere and get it into the plant. And then what happens is you get that plant, you kill the plant, or the plant dies. In this case, we will till the clover in the fall, and it will go into the soil, and the plan is for part of the nitrogen supplied for the corn will be nitrogen that becomes bioavailable to the corn when that clover gets tilled into the soil and starts to decompose. The other part of the fertilizer we plan to use for the corn will be pelletized chicken litter. So there are a number of organic certified products out there that are pelletized chicken litter, and they're high in nitrogen and other key nutrients. And so that will be our fertilizer program. We'll have the clover tilled in, and we'll have the pelletized chicken litter spread on this before we grow the corn. Corn is a very nitrogen hungry plant, but it can't get it from the atmosphere, so we have to feed it to get a healthy plant and to get the yield we are looking for. So I decided to come out in the field and do a little scouting here, and I brought the camera along to show you guys what I'm looking at. We've got the nice green field here. And then we've got some of these rows where the drill was not working right and it skipped right down in here. And then we've got another one right here. Then over here, we've got a gap. We've only had a 15-foot drill, so every 15 feet or so, right here, for example, right out in here, there's a little uneven spacing between the rows. So overall, it's filling in nicely, but the concern is that some of these gaps here will not have wheat shading the ground, and we could have some weeds. So my hope is that in gaps like this, right here, that we're going to find the red clover, these little plants right here filling in. And over here again, there's a bigger gap. And if you take a look, there are a whole lot of red clover plants coming up here. Those all got a head start. Those clover plants all got a head start on the weeds. So hopefully those are going to shade the ground to prevent weeds from germinating and thriving in those spaces where the wheat's not filling in. It won't be long, and the other wheat here that's now 6-8 inches tall will be shading most of the ground. But those gaps, the wheat is not going to get it for all of them, so hopefully the red clover takes care of that. Well, it was a beautiful Sunday afternoon to come out and tell you a little bit about the organic project and show you what we have growing here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Oh, and by the way, it rained 1.5 inches overnight, so it's going to be a while before anybody gets in the field again to do much of any field work. That'll be a good time to repair some things, such as, I don't know, those couple drag sections I messed up on the cultivator. Oops.